Hey guys, welcome back to the Bond Report. My name is Chris, aka the Bearded Blofeld. So today we're talking about rebooting Bond. And what does that mean? Well, we're going to talk about some key features, that the fans want to see carry over into this new Amazon era. So we're going to talk about directors Denis Villeneuve, writer Stephen Knight. We're going to talk about new surprises that, might be faced with Eon no longer having creative control, and quite a few other things. So be sure to stick around to the end of this video so you don't miss out on any of the content and great discussions, because I've got some great guys that we're going to be talking with today. First up, a man who has been a longtime YouTuber in the Bond community, Benjamin Lind, the Bond Bulletin. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure.
Absolutely. All right, next up, we have his 1-year anniversary, joining as probably the biggest podcaster right now in the community. I'm not sure. I don't want to overstate this here. He's got a pretty good following. he doesn't even have confidence for that. But we've got...
You're making me blush. Sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
Host of Idiot Bond Fan, Elan Ovadia.
What's up, man? Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. This is great. I'm looking forward to this.
Outstanding. Yeah, and of course, a man who really needs no introduction. A guy who, if you follow me, you know this guy. He's been on my channel countless times. My good friend, podcaster, YouTuber, Bond community extraordinaire guy. He's even won a bottle at rum at Gatherall. So we might ask him about that one. But Christopher Morales, that one Bond guy. Welcome, sir.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thanks for having me, Chris. I can't wait to jump in the conversation.
Yeah. How's everybody's weekend going?
Can't complain.
Full of work.
Pretty good. I just went to see a Sesame Street movie, so I mean, it started off on a rough beginning, but it's fine. It's cool now.
Hopefully it wasn't sad.
You know what? It was the 40th anniversary of the first Sesame Street movie, and it's a movie that literally still breaks my heart. It makes me start crying, and I really was embarrassed to get a little choked up inside. I got to be honest with you. But we were with a bunch of 3- and 4-year-olds, so you really have to keep it together.
Yeah, you got to hold it together for the kids. Keep it together.
Exactly.
What's up there? I completely get it. All right, guys. So we're going to be talking Bond here a little bit. I'm sure everybody's got some opinions on the recent announcements. Am I right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, Ben, I'm going to kick things off with you. To start things off, we have to establish something up front. Okay. So with the Craig films, how they broke tradition by having a connected story arc. Knowing this, do you look at the Craig films as its own separate kind of bubble within the 007 history because of that story arc and the ending of No Time to Die? Or do you see them as bookends to the franchise, with Skyfall landing somewhere kind of in the middle?
A good question. I would rather go for the first option.
Okay.
Because for me, it's an isolated timeline. I never gave this much thought, actually. But now with No Time to Die, it sort of feels like its own encased thing. And just on my way back to this meeting, because I was at a birthday party, I thought, how long did we have Daniel Craig as Bond? I think he was Bond for the longest time. And out of this arc, out of these films, so much has been done with Craig's likeness. I think it's even overused. I feel that his face is everywhere. And I think for me personally, it's an isolated thing, which makes it easier to go to something new, to make a soft reboot with something new.
Gotcha. What about you, Chris?
I completely agree. I think we've been so used to seeing Craig all over the place. I think Craig has been used to seeing himself all over the place, considering how much his appearance has changed since No Time to Die, with even Glass Onion and all of the other movies he's been doing. It almost feels like he's tired of it too. So that was said, it's gonna make it easier for something new, something I'm hoping at least something that we haven't seen in a long time. So bringing back old tropes, but it'll feel new because we haven't been used to those, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think for me, there's a compelling argument both directions. So, and I bring this up because, and I talked with Kim Sherwood about this, where if you look at it as the latter, okay, so No Time to Die, Casino Royale, they're bookends to the franchise.
Mhm.
Well, then that means every movie that we get, Bond 26 and beyond, is a prequel to No Time to Die. And so there's something to be said about that. Well, because obviously if he dies, it's final. That's it. If the character's dead, because every other film we didn't have him pass, so there was no concern about continuation. About, oh well, this is just a different adventure in this decade or whatever that we're experiencing. But with him dying, that leaves to be where, well, every single film after No Time to Die is now a prequel to No Time to Die.
Makes sense. Yeah.
It's a thought process. But Elan, what are you thinking on this? I can see you down there.
I'm gonna have to call bullshit on that one. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't agree at all, and I'll vehemently disagree with you there. But I like the argument. Getting back to what Chris said, yeah, if you just look at his appearance, Daniel Craig, since he stopped playing James Bond, I mean, he's like a cartoon now. Like the guy dresses like in the most like ridiculous way. And I almost feel like he's like so glad to be done with this that he's almost going like overboard with these outfits, with these outrageous like flare jeans that are like 6 sizes too big, and the fur jackets. I'm like, what is this guy doing? What is this guy doing? So I think he's really glad he's done with this. So there's that portion. But as far as what the bookends go, I don't know if I see whatever happens next as being a prequel. I mean, when you were saying that, I just can't stop but think back to the Christopher Nolan Batman series, because we had plenty of Batman movies before Batman Begins. And you could make the argument at the end of Dark Knight Rises, is he actually alive, or is Albert dreaming it? Don't know, we don't know for sure. It could have been his fantasy that he made it out. You don't know. So, I mean, that comes to my mind. Like he died, but this is a whole new start. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter what happened before. I think this is one of the directions that they're going to take, is they're going to look for new characteristics in James Bond that they're really going to stress in this new series, because I think what's been done before, the sad, mopey, crying Daniel Craig, like people have really like had enough of that to a certain degree. So I think they're going to really be pulling on some of the other attributes that Bond has as a character to kind of make this a new standalone series, however long it goes.
No, and I agree, and I think that's the smarter direction to go. So that's two sides of a coin, is what I'm getting at. I don't think that they should be looked at as bookends. I'm saying that's definitely a possibility that someone could look at it. So just to be clear on that. Yeah, Chris.
Could see that. Yep.
And also, too, I mean, we got the same message at the end of No Time to Die that we've been getting at the end of every single Bond film. James Bond will return. So, like, is he really dead? They at least, I would have felt way different if the film ended and it didn't have that there. I would feel way different. But the fact that they have that there, yeah, maybe it's just tradition, whatever. But it also leads into more creative ideas to bring forth the new generation or the new era of Bond, because you're essentially saying, yeah, this has happened, but he's going to return. So really, you can go in any direction.
And that's what we need. We need him to be able to go in any direction. And prior to No Time to Die, that wasn't a problem. Now we have this whole new situation on our hands where we're like, well, now we have to do the aftermath. So we will see how they handle it. But Chris, I'm going to go ahead and kick off question number 2 with you. So given we're about to have a recast of James Bond and MI6, would you like to see a recast and reboot of other characters? And so let me give you some examples. Like, for example, if we can reboot Bond, if we can reboot Moneypenny and M, why can we not reboot J.W. Pepper, Willard White, Knick Knack, who survived, Jaws, even some Bond girls? And I know I'm going. I can see Elan. He's like, "What are you crazy? I want to hear you."
We've had Knick Knack one too many. We're Knick Knacked out.
I get it. These questions are going to be topical in the sense of like the what if. We are rebooting the franchise. So if we're going to reboot, are we looking at seeing some of these characters come back in different forms, or were they a one and done and let's leave them in the past?
I think it would be a lot more beneficial and interesting if we had characters brought back that were related to the previous baddies. You know, whether they were, you know, I don't know, Nick Nack's great grandson or Oddjob's great grandson or something, you know, something that, you know, they have a connection to the mission that had happened and knew that someone in their family was wronged by this James Bond person and they want to come back and get revenge in their own way in a new modern world. I think that would be a little bit more interesting rather than having a whole recast of the old characters, because then it kind of seems a little desperate. You know, you're trying to bring back an audience from, you know, the 60s and 70s with these iconic villains, right? That should stay in those films because that's what made those films special. And trying to reboot them in the modern era feels a little bit cheesy. I think it would be more beneficial, more interesting if it's like, you know, hey, I am the great grandson of or Goldfinger, and now it's time for my revenge to get back at MI6 or Bond or whoever, you know? And the cool thing with that is you can make them as young as Bond. You don't have to make them old against a younger Bond. You can make them the same age. Have a head-to-head battle finally, which is what we've been wanting Bond to go against a villain that is actually up to par with him. So we do have those brutal fight scenes. We do have those strategic choreographed scenes where, you know, they're in a car chase and it's not just Bond taking advantage of a villain who's older than him, you know, it's like whatever. But I think the way to go about that would be interesting. I think that would be a lot better. Now, when it comes to some of the main core characters from MI6, I think you could completely start with a fresh cast, start with new people, maybe even start with, I don't know, bring back it wasn't Moneypenny in the novels. It was I forget her name. Someone remind me of Bond's secretary.
Oh,
Points.
Lucilia
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ponsonby.
You know, maybe bring in other people that were in the novels that haven't had enough time, but were still technically part of MI6 come into and have them become part of the main core of the new Scooby Gang per se, you know? Now there's one thing that you guys maybe can comment on this. I'm kind of interested to hear real quick. Would you keep the tradition of trans keeping Ralph as M for the new era of Bond, or would you get a completely new M and start off fresh there? Because that's kind of what they did with Judi Dench from Pierce to Daniel, right?
But
So
Pierce didn't die.
true.
He didn't have a whole memorial ceremony like where they read from a book and drink a drink saying goodbye. And that's the challenge with Ray Fiennes returning he's already literally been on camera mourning the death of James Bond. But I fully support bringing back someone like Penelope Smallbone. You know, she was fantastic. But and I bring this question up, and you know, guys, chime in here. How many times have we rebooted the Joker? How many times have we rebooted Lex Luthor?
Too many.
I mean, fair enough, but we haven't rebooted any Bond villain. We haven't rebooted any other Bond.
Yes, we have.
Well,
we see how well that went.
Blofeld.
That went pretty
Blofeld.
bad.
We rebooted Blofeld, yes, but we haven't rebooted like outside of Blofeld. There's not been any. He's it.
Well,
So
let me push on that because
Yeah.
I actually have some thoughts, and I don't want to jump in before Ben, but real quick, I truly believe that Amazon MGM is going to take everything that Eon did and not want to do that. Seriously. I think I did a quick live earlier this season called Cleaning House, where I literally was like fake sweeping on it because I really feel like that's essentially what they're doing here. You know, thank you for your service, you know, special effects guys and costume designer and everybody else before that. Character-wise too, I think they want to just start from a clean slate because they want to be known for making their own series, you know, if they could, because that's essentially what they're doing. Everything that happened before has really no bearing on this, and they may not want it to have any bearing on it because, you know, from the discussions that have been going on, like they want to go younger, they may want to do origin. I mean, Barbara and Michael and Cubby and Harry never wanted to touch that, you know, with a 10-foot pole. So I don't think myself personally that they're going to want to get into recasting old villains because of that. I think Chris brings up an interesting point. They did consider making Blofeld's brother a villain at one point. and that was shot down. So nothing ever came of that. It's becoming increasingly difficult to find new plots and schemes for these villains to have in the modern world. So I think potentially that they could go back and do something in the 60s and maybe use some of the villains that Fleming had in his stories that weren't used, or like Chris and I have talked about in the continuation novel. So they have other things if the writer doesn't want to create his own storyline and own villains. But as far as recasting Doctor No, I mean, they pretty much did that. The Rami Malek thing. I mean, the people are here to pick up the stuff, Doctor. Like you get the sense that they were thinking about doing that, maybe perhaps, and then they kind of retreated. So just some my 2 cents on that.
No, yeah, and I mean, Amazon's going to have to put butts in seats. Let's be real. They know that.
Yeah.
They know the writing's on the wall. They know they're under pressure. They know the legacy that's been handed to them. They're not going to look at this and say, "Oh, well, we're just going to throw anything at the wall and hope something sticks." No, they can't do that. Ben, what's your thought on this?
Exactly the same route. The loss of legacy stewardship. Barbara and Michael, they really had their hands over this whole thing, and they said what is being done and what is never being done. Same as other example, Not Go Streaming. Bond is a cinematic experience, something like that. This all could change, and with Amazon's takeover, there could be a total tonal shift. Bringing back old characters is not a good idea, in my opinion. I don't really think it would work because I fear it would be there just for the sake of it. For us to have an Easter egg to see, oh, that's the daughter of whatever, Rosa Klepp. No. It's been done in other films, and it borders cringe and cheesy, as Chris said. Yeah, I would find it cheesy as well.
No, I agree.
So it's a no-go for me, no.
Good. And guys, these questions are just to get the juices flowing. Okay. I want to make very clear, and to everyone watching, these are not wish list items for me. I'm not hoping that these things happen. This is more of the, could it happen? Should it happen? And why should it not? So let's be very clear on some of these questions, because I'm not looking forward to seeing a new reboot of Jaws come into the screen. Like, no, that would be right. That would.
What about, hold on, what if Dolly came back as bad this time? What if Dolly was really pissed off and like she came back, or their kid came back? What do you think? I mean, little pigtails, you don't think
as long as they're the metal teeth, you gotta have the shiny metal teeth, metal grill,
BB doll,
she will come back and haunt us for erasing her braces.
That's right. Right. Can't do it. Hilarious. All right. So
but what Amazon is famous for is fragmentation of franchises. So they could do spin-offs. I think that is not off the table.
I concur.
I hope they do. I really do. I hope that that's something that they step into, because I mean, if you look at Reacher, if you look at Fallout especially, oh my god, it's so good. I've watched it 3 times all the way through. It's hands down one of the best things. Chris, I see you.
Sorry, this just came into my mind. I don't mean to derail everything, but because Amazon now has the Bond IP, and Amazon also has other IPs of other spy-related, espionage-related franchises, would you guys be opposed for crossovers?
It's a really good
Depends.
question.
What are you thinking of?
Yeah,
I don't know. Just
it would have to be really make
example.
Reacher and Bond. I don't know. I just thought that just came to my mind right now. It's like Amazon has so much material out there that could be related to Bond in different ways. Could they, for a couple films, Reacher be the next, like, not calling him Felix, but he's like the Felix type of character that Bond connects with in a couple I don't know, just something that just popped in my head that I thought would be interesting, because Amazon has such a huge array of different types of content.
I think that's very difficult still.
Yeah.
I mean, especially it's a logistical nightmare. I mean, if you think of like Law and Order, SVU crosses over with Law and Order, or Justice League with other iterations of those characters. It's all within house, and while Amazon does those own the properties, it's going to create a logistical nightmare, in my opinion. And I just don't. I think that's a big no-go for them. I like the idea. I mean, I posted the other day. I was watching Dexter. I'm like, wouldn't it be great if Dexter and James Bond had a crossover? But I was kidding. So,
I think in medical terms, that is known as cross-contamination.
Exactly.
cross-contamination. I like that.
Yeah.
Good one, Ben. All right, Elan, you're up. So, question number 3. With your background in sales, licensing, this is a perfect segue. Let's talk about the brands. Now, I don't think heritage brands like Omega or Walther are going anywhere, but 2 things that we have to discuss. One, who is going to take up the lead for Bond's suits? Okay, so AKA if Tom Ford is out, which is most likely the case, who are we going to see as the tailoring of the next line of Bond suits, especially now that Lindy Hemming is also out the door? She's left the franchise as the costume designer. Who can you see kind of stepping up to the plate here?
Amazon Basics.
You never know. But Chris, I think it really depends on what direction they're going in. If they're going back and doing a 60s style thing, I mean, obviously they're going to want either a fashion house who can recreate some of those classic suits. But if they're continuing modern day, I think you're going to see less and less of those type of outfits. I really do. I don't think we're going to be seeing as much tuxedos and 2- and 3-piece suits as we once did. I think it's not part of the world we live in as much anymore. It's just not. I mean, nobody wears a friggin' tie anymore. So I mean, I think it really depends on what direction we're going. Oh, okay, well, maybe one person on this conversation, but I think if it goes, no, that's fine. If it goes back to origin, I mean, it could be anybody, but obviously it's going to has to be someone who can kind of recreate those classic pieces, because they may not have something like that on their current selections. So it really is up in the air right now. I'm more interested in to see what they're going to do with other brands, because I think that, depending on who they choose, if they go modern, they could make this guy like a fashion forward James Bond. And I'm not talking about like Daniel Craig fashion forward. I'm talking about like partner with like youthful brands, cool hip brands where these Gen Z and Gen Alpha kids want to go and pick something up from like the Kooples or Rag and Bone or one of these higher end brands, but that are still accessible in price point, and not just go to like that haute couture line. So I'm curious like what's going to happen and how they're going to style him in other things besides suits, really.
And I think that's a good point, because obviously we've had 60 years of suits, and that's fantastic. And obviously through the Craig period, and even some of the Brosnan with his Brioni suits, we saw the luxury brands tack on, latch in, and really create a look and a cohesive collection for Bond to wear. You're right, though. Moving into 2025, it's not that common anymore that you see somebody in a tie. Do I own ties? Yes. Do I wear them occasionally? Yeah, but
sorry, one more thought on that before I let you finish. Amazon, Barbara and Michael and Eon Productions relied heavily on the revenue from those partnerships and the product placement to offset the costs of the movies not making as much money, because when you adjust these movies for inflation and then you have your box office receipts, and then half of it is you spend $300 million making a movie. It also costs $250 to $300 million to market that movie. So if the movie only makes $600 million, you're at a wash. So I think that we also have to take in consideration that Amazon's got a lot more money, and they may not need to heavily rely on those brand partnerships because they have the cash flow that Eon would, because that almost helped them fund these movies. They were the production company. They didn't hire 6 other producers to throw in money on these projects. Aston Martin, Omega, all those type of people were essentially other producers because they were providing cash flow to help make these movies. So I think that's an interesting situation that Amazon's going to run into, because they may not need as many of those high value brand partners to throw cash on the table anymore.
Well, and I don't know if it's a need thing at this point, but I think it's just Bond is associated with some of these things at this point. It's just like if Bond pulls out, a Glock as his daily carry, everybody's going to be like, what the hell happened? I mean, it's clearly a Walther PPK. That is his staple pistol. They changed it in the Craig era to the SIG P226 because that made sense that's what the Navy officers are issued. So that would make sense. And I think that's really what this boils down to is, does it make sense? It could be from a financial standpoint. It could be from a marketing standpoint. It could be from a story. Hey, I want it there standpoint. And that's why I'm asking these questions. Ben, what do you think about this?
Oh, brands, not my specialty. I usually don't give a hopping kangaroo. I register that it's important for the cash flow, but as Elan said, Amazon has very deep pockets, so they might not even need that. Still, I registered over the years that some things are connected to Bond, like the Omega watch, which has been used as a gadget for several times. A suit you cannot really use as a gadget, but whether it's Brioni or whether it's Anthony Sinclair or Tom Ford, I really don't care. I care about a good story, about good characters, and a fun time in the cinema. What the people wear is secondary to me, really.
Well said.
I'm not one of those people who, when I watch a Bond film, I'm spying for the brand inside the collar. Like, that's not something that's, I'm looking for at all. I will say though, an argument point to what you said, you can't make a suit into a gadget. John Wick, sir, his suit was completely lined with Kevlar to make it bulletproof. And we saw things like that in Cypher 007, to where you could upgrade the suit. I
couldn't play that. I'm sorry. I'm not on a Mac.
That's okay. We'll forgive you.
I don't buy everything that has Bond on it. Most of it, but not that.
Well, it was free.
No, but it is good to have a well-made suit on Bond, because it's a lost art. It's a lost art. Not many men wear really good suits. Here in Germany, you don't see men wearing really good suits, not even when they come from the office. Nothing expensive. So in other countries, like when you go to London, you have a totally different picture because they live in the center of it. They live where the Bond suits were made. I mean, they just need to go there, and they have the same deep pockets. So, and it just looks really good on us. If you ever tried it, no matter what size and shape you are. I mean, with me, you can't speak of shape, but they would tailor a suit for me and I would look good in it.
The brand that I looked up, because I did look into some of the brands, and obviously some of the brands we've had in the past, I would love to see the return of Brioni. They're still very active. Obviously, we would have that Brosnan nostalgia kind of come back into play. Great English craftsmanship, Roman heritage. We've also got Anderson and Shepard, which is another fantastic brand. They tailor for the king. Cary Grant has had suits made for him by them. So there are other bespoke companies, but Amazon, I don't think they're worried about where it comes from. I think they're going to look for something like nostalgia to connect it to the character. I think they're going to be looking at this as, well, there is a big community out there that does care about the fashion of Bond, whether it's us or not, or whether it's you at home watching right now. There is a large community that cares about the fashion. So they're going to pay attention to this, just like they should on all of the tropes of Bond, like what car he's going to drive, et cetera, like what cities is he going to travel to. So that's why I asked the question, because while, yes, it may not be at the forefront of many of us who enjoy the franchise just because they're spy action movies, that's good enough for me. You're a James Bond fan at that point. You don't have to own 17 different suits, and there's nothing wrong if you do. But understand, you don't have to be a fan.
Right before one more thing before we jump on that. I'm curious to find out and we're talking about like suits, and I agree with everything that Ben said, but one thing I would be interested to find out is like when Lindy Hemming was coming up with these costume designs and Siderat and all these people, you have to understand, like, when they made deals with like Omega and all these people, they're contractually obligated to show these things at so many times in the movie.
Yeah.
You're going to get 30 seconds of a watch screen time. You're going to get 6 minutes in a suit screen time. Basically, they had to tell the costume designer, that's what we're contractually obligated to do for them to pay us $30-40 million, for that campaign. I just think the gloves are off here. So I think like anything's possible at this point. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, no, great. It's a great addition. And with your background, I appreciate that, because not everybody thinks of it from that perspective. All right, Chris. So as of Thursday, July 31st, we now know that we have creator of Peaky Blinders and SAS Rogue Heroes show writer Stephen Knight. He's going to be penning the script for Bond 26. Paired with the recently announced director Denis Villeneuve, what type of Bond film should fans expect from these two?
Well, I'm super excited that we are getting something completely new from Purvis and Wade. I mean, I think it's time. Again, thank you for the contributions and for how much they've done for the franchise, but I think it's time that we start fresh.
Yes, here's your severance package. Please leave. Please.
Yeah. I'm still a little concerned because I love Peaky Blinders. That was one of the shows that I watched and I would go back and continue to watch over and over, but it was such a very moody and dark and graphic and emotional series, right? And that was kind of what we were dealing with Bond. So hopefully, we take some of that and Knight kind of changes things up a bit because we still want, because the consensus that I'm hearing is that everybody wouldn't mind going back to more of the fun Bond, more of the witty Bond, lot less of the emotional, while it's still really cool to see him be human because Bond is human. I think if we could get more fun out of it and more adventure, that would be good. But again, he's really great at making diverse characters. He's very good at storytelling, and hopefully, he can provide us with a new direction of different locations as well. I think that there's definitely some places we don't need to go back to.
Get out of Italy. For the love of God, get out of Italy.
But it's interesting. I'm excited because you could also see the enthusiasm that he brings to the table. Both the director and the writer are huge Bond fans. That's clear, which is going to only play, I think, positively. But also to kind of seeing their track record and whatnot, hopefully they won't go into what we were kind of used to and just leaving. So, again, it's all out on the table. Like Elan said, the gloves are off. Anything can happen here, and that's kind of the exciting part too. So, I think what fans are going to expect is something that we are going to be surprisingly surprised about, if that makes sense. It's going to be something new and fresh, but yet something that reminds us of home.
I wasn't initially hyped by the announcement of Denis Villeneuve, because out of the 11 films that he did, I don't know, you have to correct me on this if I'm wrong. He hasn't made a lot of films, but out of the ones that he made, I liked exactly one, which was Sicario, which was a very, very, very good thriller with many, many layers. The others I did not enjoy at all, or I turned them off. I did not go to the cinema to see either one of them. But I think it will not be the director alone. I think Amazon will have a great say with their creative team, and there are a lot of things that we can expect, starting with bold storytelling. When you look at the other Amazon productions that they put out together with MGM Studios, they have a lot of strengths, and a lot of them are very successful films. And Amazon tends to back directors that have a strong artistic vision, like Villeneuve. Yeah. For that reason, the choice is obvious. Even when the subject matter that they want to go with, I think they had a script or at least the first draft before they went to Villeneuve. I'm pretty sure of that. And even when the subject matter is challenging or unconventional, they go for artistic boldness. So what we could see is, and that's what probably many don't want to see, a more emotional Bond, like we had with Craig. For my part, I'm done with it. I don't want it. The second thing, when you've seen films by Denis Villeneuve, visual storytelling, daring cinematography, he did some things with Dune that have never been done before, filming with infrared cameras, whatever. The relevance of Bond today, technically you could make another GoldenEye, because we have that situation with Russia. GoldenEye is more relevant today than any other decade before,
Sure.
Although in GoldenEye, the Russians were not the villains, technically, when you look at it. But you can, with Amazon, introduce global themes that have a socio-political relevance, But I think they will go for very risky narrative structures. And that's where it
Risky.
really gets complicated. Yeah.
For their
So
first outing, you
with-
think they're going to go risky?
Yes. I think they will go with, I don't know, either non-linear storytelling, character arcs, beginning something that they can draw over multiple films. You know, that could be. I mean, and if Villeneuve does a good thing, he could do more than one Bond film. I mean, that's also a Bond tradition that some directors have done more than one Bond film.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he's the right man for the job. But if I see the film and I like it, I'm proven wrong. Okay, no problem with that. And I watch all the other films. I promise you. I do a marathon if his Bond film is really good.
Well, and I think I like that he takes risks. I do. What I fear is we're going to get Star Wars: A Hope Awakens, where it's basically they go back to an old film or a few old films and they pull so much nostalgia that it's basically a rewrite of a classic like Goldfinger, for example. And I don't think they're going to do it like shot for shot, character for character in the same vein that The Force Awakens did. But I can definitely see them playing it safe on this first one to establish themselves. It's like, hey, we can make a Bond movie. It may be a little safe, but we can do it. And look, we did it really well, and we had a great team behind us. And I think, to piggyback on what you said about, Villeneuve, that it's going to depend on his cinematographer, his director of photography, because my God, if you look at Blade Runner 2049, I don't care if you hate that movie, it is absolutely breathtaking to watch. Like every single frame is almost a work of art. And,
no doubt about that.
And he got creative. I mean, there were shots with the holographs where, what's his name? Gosling is walking through the city and you see holographic dancers. That's actually Anna de Armas dressed up in those costumes. And he filmed her and then went back and they put her in as a special effect of a real hologram to film the real hologram. Like he went that far. He didn't have to go. That could have been completely done in post. And no, they did that in real time. So there's little elements like this that I'm talking about that I feel like Amazon is going to take some risks, but I think they're going to play it more safe than anything. Elan, what's your take on this? So are we going to get gritty? Are we going to get violent? Are we going to get something on par with like a Casino Royale?
I think they're going to go big or go home. I honestly do. I think they're going to go big or go home. I think they'll make some safe choices as far as, plot line, structure, casting. I think that there's going to be some fundamental safes, but I think by hiring visionaries like this, you want to make a bold statement. Yeah. I personally have not seen a lot of his work. I've seen Ario and I've seen Prisoners, and I love both of those movies. I don't really want to go back and watch all of his movies. That's me personally. Like almost don't want to, because then if I go in and am I comparing the direction to everything I saw before? I know what I'm expecting. I want to go in with like a blank slate, not knowing that much about his past directorial choices, because he may take this in a different direction altogether, depending on what kind of plot they structure, storyline. I mean, if this is a period piece, if this is a period series, it's going to look completely different than the holograms and what have you. I mean, it's going to be totally different. I haven't seen Peaky Blinders, so I really can't speak to that. I'm not too familiar with the writer. I am very happy that Neil Purvis and Robert Wade will not be anywhere near the screenplay. I think, like, let's say congratulations, you guys did, a halfway decent job for the last 9 movies, but it's definitely time for a change. And I think they're making that statement by hiring all these people, by hiring one of the top 3 or 4 directors in Hollywood, by hiring one of the top writers of, the last 5 years television series. They're making big, bold choices. Amy Pascal, David Heyman, 2 very well-known producers for producing some of the biggest franchises of all time. You could argue bigger than Bond, Spider-Man and Harry Potter, or as big. So I think all the choices so far have been big or bold. And that's what I'm anticipating. But as far as the storyline, the structure, and how they're going to make all the creative choices, the director and the writer, I really couldn't speak to that, just because I haven't seen much of what they've done so far.
If you watch anything and I would say this is just from a spy fan enjoyment. SAS Rogue Heroes. I just binged it this last week. You can do the 7-day free trial, MGM Plus. There's only 2 seasons. There's 6 episodes per season, so it's not super long. It's something you could easily digest in a week. Wow, like, and I do mean wow. It is some really good, from action to espionage to emotion to some of the intensity in the scenes. It's not one of those, like, it's not going to visually blow you away, but we're talking about the SAS in World War II, 1941 is where we pick up. And it's wild to watch it. So definitely check that out if you haven't, because I think that would be some. Well, no, I was just gonna say that would give you an inkling into his writing style. Go ahead.
One thing I would like from them, I want to not pay for James Bond movies on Amazon Prime. I think that's ridiculous. You know, if Amazon Prime is going to charge me $14.99 to rent Octopussy, sorry, like, come on, you own the franchise.
Yeah, at least after a year.
They will push everything.
Just my thoughts. Just after a year,
really push everything through their ecosystem now. Yeah. From now on, everything.
Ben, we are well overdue for a badass Bond song. Okay, I've been going through my music, like I've been going through all the songs, and we need something that's uplifting, something that's punchy. It's going to be memorable. Now, you know, who can deliver something on the level of Live and Let Die, on the level of You Know My Name, or even something as fun and memorable as Abtac, A View to a Kill? I mean, who do you have in mind for the next Bond song?
Now I wish I would listen to actual modern music. I'm stuck in the 60s. I'm sorry.
Me too.
Every evening I listen to my jazz records. Well, okay. I don't know, but let me give you the direction of how I would like the song to sound. Maybe that is a help. You can help me find an artist for it. Yeah. I would go for a Surrender kind of sound, the end credits of Tomorrow Never Dies. Yeah. Or if I could go into a game franchise, I would pick something like Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, which has a spy theme vibe. And remember when Skyfall came out, they promised, before the single was released, they promised Adele's great voice with an operatic finish. I was waiting for it the entire time. I don't know where people see this operatic finish, but it certainly isn't there. I find that song horrendously boring. But okay, that's just me. As you say, it needs punch, and it needs the right vocals for that. I mean, Tina Turner's GoldenEye. Well, Tina Turner is Tina Turner, you know?
Yeah.
That's something. That's unrivaled. Yeah. That's what you need. But you need it needs to be classic. It needs to be classic, brassy. If they go bold, well, at least keep that. Yeah, but it must go into your ears, and you must be able to hum it 20 years later. And that's what I still do with everything from Tomorrow Never Dies and The World Is Not Enough. I'm whistling around at work all the time. People always say, wow, that's so on point. What is that? So,
I get it.
It's Bond.
What do you think, Chris? Yeah.
I have a few ideas, and I think you've mentioned his name before, but I think we're way overdue for a Michael Bublé Bond theme.
Yeah. Yes.
Michael Bublé. He's still young enough. He's still young enough to be. I mean, I would have loved to have heard him in the Craig era, you know. But he's still young enough now and relevant enough. I mean, with I think he's been on The Voice for a couple seasons now, so people remember him from The Voice. At least some of the younger.
He just had a 20-year anniversary of his album About Time that just released. So he's on an uptick right now.
Yeah.
He's a strong contender.
But the thing is, though, and I don't know, again, this is an Eon thing. They're typically looking for people that are modern, people that will instantly, they'll know the name. Anyone will know the name because they're relevant right now. So, I mean, at the time, I thought it was absolutely perfect that they picked, at the time when the film was supposed to be released for No Time to Die, that they picked Billie Eilish, because that was the height of her popularity. However, with COVID and everything pushing back the film, I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot, because then she started to lose a little bit of relevance. But I mean, she still won a ton of awards for it. People were still playing that song, and it what that does is it gets people fans of the artist to go see the film because their favorite artist is in the film. And if Amazon wants a younger generation of Bond fans to go see the movie, they're going to need to have that person who's relevant now, that musical artist that's relevant now, to do something. And unfortunately, and we may be surprised, but I can't really think of, except there is a guy that has become pretty popular recently. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but his name is Steven Sanchez. He actually has a lot of the tones of what we heard in the 60s and 50s, and he can hold the tone of that very brassy Bond-like sound. But unfortunately, I think
A
feel like
crooner, kind of.
nowadays,
He's a crooner.
yes,
Got it.
it's weird. He's a crooner, but he does a lot of more modern pop music. It's interesting. You probably would recognize a few of his songs that have been on the radio if you were to go look them up. But I think a lot of the artists now, unfortunately, may not be able to handle the range of what we're wanting, meaning like the
Mhm.
brassy tones. They may be able to, yeah, sure, they could sing them and they can hold, they may sound good, but it won't be like a Bublé or like a Tom Jones or like a Tina Turner or
Mhm.
it'll sound more modern, even if you do put all the brass in the background and the music and do everything you need to do to make it sound like that spy sound. So really, like, are they even going to consider doing that? Are they going to go more of a, you know, like, your name, full on guitar and more rockish, something that's faster tempo? And I think, in my opinion, we need something a bit more faster tempo from
Yeah.
considering the last few movies. I mean, come on, like half of those songs you can kind of fall asleep to, but like I want something that'll get me hyped up. And then also too, I want that main theme to be incorporated in the soundtrack. I miss that.
Yes.
Mhm.
Elon,
Yep.
before you go, I want to bring up a couple artists here just to kind of throw out to you guys and kind of give you an idea of where I'm coming from in kind of going through the music of several of the films that I've been doing lately. One thing that I tend to notice about the artist's choice is they go one direction or they go another. They either go for somebody who is very popular right now, or they go with someone who is proven. Okay,
Mm.
Tina Turner, Goldeneye. At that time when that song came out, and she was not nearly as popular. Like she was on a downtick, but she was proven. Okay,
Mm.
as to where if you look at someone like Garbage, 2 films later, The World Is Not Enough, Garbage was on an uptick. They were popular at the time. So that's, but they weren't nearly as proven. Like they had
Mm.
established themselves in the music industry, yes, with some successful albums, but they didn't have a 30-year career
Mm.
at that point. And so when I consider a musical act for a new Bond project, I look at both of those categories, and I got 4 ideas here I want to throw out. And Elon, I want to hear what you have to say about some of these too. Is, if we look at somebody who's got a proven record, who can give us punchy, who can give us edge, Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I love Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I do too, and they haven't done anything in quite a while. This
What are
would
you
be
talking about? They just released 2 albums last year. They got
they
two
just
brand
released
new
2 albums
albums.
last year. Like I said, Elon, thanks for reminding me about that. I knew that. But my point is, that's somebody they're that long career act that could come in and really deliver quite frankly, a banger of a song. Then you've also got somebody like the Arctic Monkeys. Now
Mm.
we're staying topical to the country. They're a British rock band,
Mhm.
fantastic library of music. They would fit in very well as well. Now, then also we've got Dua Lipa, pop princess, very popular. That's going to be somebody who's more in the now, who's got
Sabrina Carpenter.
Sabrina Car-
Mhm.
Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah.
Yes, um, they could bring her in. So there's 2 directions we can go here. I feel like, Elon, what do you think about this?
Well, again, I think it really depends on where the storyline is set. If it's set in the 60s, if it's set in the 90s, if it's set in modern day, because obviously you can't have Metallica or Red Hot Chili Peppers do a 60s, Bond theme. It just doesn't make any sense. Or maybe you
Right.
could. Maybe you could, throw it out there as, a little, wink and a nod. Like it doesn't have to be, part of the time period. You know, I'm I'm concerned, and Chris and I had this conversation a couple weeks ago when we were doing our bonding hour. The last three artists are all Gen Z, Gen Alpha loves. They're the popcorn, the Instagram follower kind of crap, and they all won Oscars. And I think it's crazy to me that those three songs won Oscars, and all the other songs in all those years, which were so much better, not including like License to Kill or, some of those other crap ones. I'm surprised that those won Academy Awards, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
I would really like, so it depends. So if they go more modern, I think they will go with another very marketable choice. Um, I think the Dua Lipa thing has a very high possibility. It also depends when this movie comes out. So if this movie comes out in 3 years, which means they would record the song maybe a year and a half, 2 years from now, her popularity might not be as high as it is right this second. You could almost say that she's already reached the peak of her popularity. I think you could argue that. There's that other girl who sings the Pink Pony Club song. She's really big right now. Do you know who she is?
Yeah, that's Roman.
Charlotte
Oh,
Roman or something. Yeah, something like that.
Chapel Rome. Chapel Rome.
Chapel Roan, yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Very popular with the youngsters. Also, like she's sort of like non-binary, like kind of thing. I mean, that's a big appeal. Also, if you want to appeal to this younger generation, someone who's fluid in their sexuality or their gender, more accepting people. The younger people might like that if they throw the bone that way.
It didn't work out for Jaguar very well.
It didn't work for who?
Jaguar.
No.
Have you seen Jaguar's marketing campaign that they released last year?
No, no. Oh,
It,
no, no.
it was so bad the CEO stepped down.
Well, I know the whole Budweiser thing. I know the Anheuser-Busch crap. What happened with that, but.
Okay, similar but way more extreme.
But point being, like, I mean, it's a safe choice if they pick a younger, artist who appeals to the younger generation. I don't know, like, I think that would have worked more in the 90s, because people don't buy singles anymore. I think if they had a Billie Eilish type person, for the Tomorrow Never Dies instead of Sheryl Crow or something like that made more sense because you actually had to sell tangible records or you would have to sell, singles on iTunes. That's not the world we live in anymore. So I don't know how many butts are in seats because Billie Eilish sang the song. I could see that you're streaming that song, which you're already paying for, and Billie Eilish gets, a half a penny every time that thing gets streamed, sure. But I don't know how much that's bringing people into the cinema these days. But long answer to your question. I mean, I need some rock, man. I need some Chili
Yeah,
Peppers. I need
yeah.
some Metallica. I need some good stuff. Like, it doesn't have to be heavy metal, but I need something other than what we've been doing. I mean, the Chris Cornell song is fantastic, and it's been 4 movies without anything like that, and the last 4 kind of all sounded the same. So I think it's time for a drastic change in direction.
That's where I lean into, bands like the Arctic Monkeys, who that's more of a millennial band. Um, and they've got that rock sound as well. And there's going to be the argument of like, well, what about the Foo Fighters? And I think Amazon's going to take a look at this and they're going to say, well, a big thing with Eon was they tried to keep a lot of their artists and if you look at the catalog, they were very British. A lot of them were I mean, it's heavily outweighed to British performers versus American versus another country. And I feel like that's a direction they may look at first, but I really think it's going to come down to who's the it person right now when we're shopping for an artist and who's got the edge to it. Is it Youngblood, who I'm not a fan of, but Ozzy Osbourne gave his graces to or gave his blessing on before he passed away. So, there's going to be some people that come up in this conversation as all of us fans get a little bit older. Just like you, Ben, you don't listen to modern music that much. I get it, brother. I get it.
Well,
It
hold
was
on,
not
Chris, do you know who Teddy Swims is? Do you know who Teddy Swims
I
is?
do. Teddy Swims was another person who was on my mind.
I think Teddy Swims would make a he's got such a great vocal range.
Yes.
He's very current right now. I think he appeals to a different demographic than what typically would be a Bond movie. I think he would make a stellar song choice. Yeah.
Great choice. Great choice. Okay, so Elan, this one's for you. Knowing the team that we have between Denis Villeneuve and Stephen Knight, what is the wild card MacGuffin or story-based theme that Bond hasn't tackled yet that you want to see in Bond 26?
As far as like what the villain's motivation is, and we're actually okay. So,
like for example, like in the final Mission Impossible, we had the AI machine.
That no, the MacGuffin. Yeah. So I mean, I thought something that's very current right now is, I mean, we're talking a lot about rare earth minerals. It's probably the thing you're hearing the most these days. I think there could be something that's really environmental, or that's based in reality, that may be used, because that's something that's very geopolitical these days, with rare earth minerals that are being scooped up and traded for favors. So I think that is something that could be. I also think if they want to go and do an Elon Musk type villain, which they may eventually, I don't know if they're going to do it right out of the gate, but you could get into space travel again and things of that nature. I think there's some risk in that too. But also, I would counter what I'm saying and say, well, do I really want them to echo what's going on in the real world? I mean, it worked for Bond in the 80s. I mean, how we had how many movies about sorry, I can't curse on this channel, right? The Cold War. I'm curious to see, I guess what I'm saying is, if they're going to want to tackle real world issues, or they're going to want to do something that's a little bit more, outside the norm, that maybe forward thinking. I mean, nanobots is not really something that's, in our mind these days, or wasn't 5 years ago. So, I mean, I think it really depends. I'm not really sure what they're going to do, but rare earth minerals, I think, could be an interesting plot choice.
Great idea. Great idea. Ben, what do you think?
There were a lot that Elan mentioned that were really, really good. It's difficult not to go into things that we already had, because some of it, if you go into AI and media manipulation, we had media manipulation in Tomorrow Never Dies. But what about deepfakes, for example? A villain trying to destabilize a whole government, like the UK, because it's always the threat, whatever, using deepfakes and fake news. That is something that we encounter every day. And you can pair it with AI, because sometimes when you open your X or whatever, you see videos that have been created with newly developed AI, and you think, is that real? Like the other day, there was this video with bunnies hopping on a trampoline, and everybody thought this was a real security camera footage recording, and it wasn't. It was AI. But you're fooled by that. And there are very good deep fakes out there. There were deep fakes of, I don't know, it was a training video of Obama, but it wasn't Obama. Not in likeness and not his voice. It was all fake. And that could be something. And then, well, you go back to the rest that has already been done. Biotech warfare, genetic manipulation, whatever. Things that you can pair with a lot of things today. And yeah, Mission Impossible had that AI threat. Yeah, don't get me started on that one.
Chris, what are you thinking about?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I think of things in the modern world that are going on now, and I don't know, things that come to mind that I don't know why that just came to mind, but like the whole epidemic of like the Ozempic drug, people using that, and that could be used to manipulate it. Like, you have a villain who's selling through some type of saying that it's going to make you look good, because it's all about now the social media aspect. And you can maybe even use social media too as connected with that, because people want to look a certain way, people want to feel a certain way. But, in all reality, life isn't like that. But people, some villain could take advantage of that by selling this, specialty drug or specialty whatever. And really what it is, it's like, but then again, you go back into, the whole drug stuff. And I think it's hard because, and I think that's what Amazon is facing too, is like it's hard to find realistic yet modern plot lines that we haven't done already. So I almost
Well,
wonder.
go ahead,
Oh,
sorry.
no, I was just saying. I almost wonder. Maybe we kind of, instead of having a big bad villain, what if we set up the next 2 to 3 Bond films building relationships with, different members of the squad or whatever. Yeah, have them go on different missions, do smaller missions. I mean, I've always been a huge advocate. Yeah, they want a younger Bond, but I do miss the whole idea of like, Anakin and Obi-Wan, that type of storyline, or like Eggsy and Harry Hart from Kingsman, where there's two people that are working together for a greater cause, and then flip it on its head at the very last film, make the enemy somebody who was inside the organization the whole entire time that we didn't see coming.
Yeah.
I know that's not been done before, but I also wish to see more of like the human side of Bond too, like doing the smaller things, like what's it like on a daily routine. He doesn't always have to be perfect every time. He doesn't always have to land on his feet jumping out of an airplane on a parachute. I don't like parachuting out of a plane. But yeah, I get it. I think that's the struggle that Amazon is going to face. I think as we move forward in the future, there's definitely some things that maybe we don't even know about that Amazon has up their sleeve that they're going to use. Shoot, I mean, for all we know, hey, Amazon itself may be the enemy. I don't know. They may be
Right.
a giant organization that sells packages.
Jeff Bezos with a cat.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. We got
right.
Bezos coming out. Yeah.
Who knows? But
Well,
that's the exciting part too, right? We don't
it
know.
is.
So we'll have to wait and see.
We will. And to kind of piggyback on what you were saying, like, for example, like the beauty industry, for one, that's
Yeah.
a huge multi-billion-dollar industry. And right now, very topical, like you were saying, Ozempic. But then also there was a movie recently called The Stuff, talking about how, certain people are getting these injections. Why does Kate Beckinsale almost look like she's the same age as she was 20, 30 years ago? Tackling something like that, similar in a way to where it's a bio weapon, but it's being hidden in cosmetics. Kind of like we saw in Batman 89, where the Joker was tainting all these beauty products, kind of going on that direction. One thing that I personally would love to see is we haven't seen Bond in like a dedicated like race car movie where like there's a reason he's got to get on, like, for example, something popular again is F1. If you've read one of my favorite Bond novels by Horowitz, for
Trigger Mortis?
Yeah, Trigger Mortis. I was trying to see if I had it back here.
I love that one.
I love that book. And if you guys also read it.
I haven't. No.
Okay.
Ooh.
I won't give away anything major, but just put it this way. He has to get on a race team and he has to infiltrate someone, and there has to be a series of races, and he has to achieve a certain amount of points in order to prevent something from happening.
Learning a new skill for the sake of the mission.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. Thank you, Chris. And so let's bring something like that into the fold here, where it's going to be action packed. It's going to be intense. We could film it in Monte Carlo. So there's all types of directions we could go here, that it doesn't have to be something like you were saying, I believe, Ben, it doesn't have to be politically charged. It doesn't have to be topical to what's going on in current affairs right this second. 20 years from now, I could watch this movie and go, I get it. I understand this.
Chris, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Would you, and this is actually, I'm sorry, I'm asking a question. That's not my job on this, but something just popped in my head, and I was thinking about this a couple weeks ago. Would you guys ever be interested in seeing a villain who was not megomaniacal with world domination plans? I'm talking about something simple like a serial killer or something of that sort. Bond taking on someone who doesn't have world domination plans but is doing bad in some fashion. Would that ever interest you if it was the right type of story?
No, because I wouldn't send an FBI agent to handle a shoplifting case.
What if he murdered the whole team or something like that? Or
it's just out of his. I think something that simple would be out of Bond's scope.
Yeah.
Unless we start off the film with, like, for example, the death of M. So like we're hunting for the killer of somebody in Bond's team.
Yeah, or the prime minister or something big like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
like then okay, yeah. But as far as just like an everyday serial killer, he's just killing nobodies.
Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, like I feel like that's out of Bond's scope personally. But I hear what you're saying. I mean, in the right scenario, it could work. Yeah.
No, I want to save the world scenario.
I get it. I get it.
No.
I prefer it
But
too.
different
I like
questions.
Hunter.
Do you want standalone missions, or do you want an arc? Again.
Mm.
I think the first three should be standalone.
Yeah, I think we need some standalones for a while. I think
Let everybody get warmed up to this new Bond, and then maybe the last two that he does could be a story arc.
yeah. And it's got a standalone from this new video game coming out too, which is
That's a whole nother question.
a
topic.
blueprint of really what the film could have been. Bond 26 could have been, because they're literally rebooting the character in that game. So I feel like that's a bit of a struggle too that Amazon's going to have to balance with introducing a new Bond. Is they're going to be compared to the video game. There's no way around it.
Going to be compared to everything.
Yeah, we've been at this for over an hour. If you're still watching at home, thank you. We've had a lot of fun. I've had fun, guys. I want to thank you all for being here. Does anybody have any final thoughts about rebooting Bond and what you might expect or want to expect?
I'd actually like to see Bond in a pair of boots. I posted a picture of Bond wearing a pair of cowboy boots, and people were really liking that. So I think that would be interesting.
Okay.
Oh, we have one in our own community.
Okay.
I'll guarantee you that.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
That's true, right?
Yeah. Bond needs to go back on a horse.
Yeah.
That's my take.
I like that.
Yeah.
Aston Martin
Yeah.
branded saddle.
Yeah.
Love it.
And what I want to see in the future, you need to do more roundtable discussions like this.
Yes.
Yes.
Amen.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So we want to come back.
Yes, I will
This is
be
so much
bringing
fun.
this back around. I promise it's going to happen. Especially we got Road to a Million getting ready to come out here on August 22nd. We've got we're like 2-3 weeks away from that. So perhaps after that drops and we've all had some time to watch it, we could have a chat about that new season.
Oh yeah, you don't want me as a guest then.
Oh, I do. Yes, sir. I do. That's funny. I can't wait. All right, guys. I appreciate you all being here. Thanks so much. And for you at home, thanks so much for watching. And as always, Merry Christmas, 007.